Welcome back to another episode of Can Blue, a hockey podcast covering the Rangers and the Montreal Canadiens. I'm Ben, your host of the Rangers side.
I'm Brendan, covering the Canadian side.
And it's a happy new year for some, not so happy for others.
It's a happy new year for us.
Very
much so.
The Canadiens have been kind of going on a tear here. They're entering, as we speak today on Sunday, the 4th? The 5th. Sunday the 5th. They're 500, 18-3, I believe.
Yep.
1 point out of a wild card spot. I'm officially declaring them
right behind Pittsburgh and Columbus, so it's very doable.
I'm officially declaring them in the playoff race.
I agree. I think so too.
And I'm not yet canceling the season for the Rangers, but it's almost
looking
there.
like it.
It is almost there.
I mean, you're with the Islanders and Sabres.
Oh no, we are at the bottom of the conference and the division for sure. I just know I can't cancel it yet because there's a chance that they can climb out of it.
True.
They're not too
Be
far
like the
gone.
next St. Louis Blues.
Yeah, but I don't really see it unless a big sweeping change happens, and it can't happen too much later into the season.
It has to happen now.
It has to happen like in the next week or two, yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's a good segue into the next piece that I wanted to talk about, which is big news coming out of Vancouver. If you've been following along with any of the NHL news, Elias Pettersson and JT Miller are kind of feuding on that team. Pettersson is more of a quiet, finesse guy that probably doesn't like to get harped on or like yelled at too much. That's what it kind of seems like when hearing about kind of the stuff going on with this team. And then JT Miller is known for being more of a hardo, like
Hothead.
He's a hothead, but he also cares and wants to win. It's not like he's out there like, throwing slew foots and elbows. It's like he gets on his teammates when they do something wrong or when he has a strong opinion. And you saw that. There's a clip of him and Lundqvist.
Behind the net.
So when he was on the Rangers initially,
okay.
JT Miller and Lundqvist, there was a clip of Lundqvist being like, dude, you got to do this. And Miller's chirping right back, like, no, this is the way to do it. So I don't know what they were talking about exactly, but it was like.
I have a take on that.
Let me finish this and you
go
can
ahead.
go. Like, it's interesting, though, right? Miller's a young guy at that point, and Lundqvist was like the leader on the team, and
Right.
Miller was standing up to him, but also like, maybe speaking a little bit out of place. And I think that rubs guys the wrong way a little bit. When he went to Tampa, similar thing, it didn't seem to work there, JT Miller. Because of this attitude he has, but I think you can like mold that or maybe even like use that to your advantage at like a player like that. You know what I mean? Like we've been saying forever, the Rangers need a guy that's hard to play against and like, gritty and tough and like plays that type of style. I think that is kind of exactly the player that they would be looking for. So I'll let you get to your point, but then I'll get back into.
Yeah, I would say at this point, JT Miller is a leader. Obviously, he's a point per game, beyond point per game type of player. But as a leader, you could say he's passionate from like how vocal he is and how he gets on his teammates. But at certain points, you have to sometimes adjust your style of speech and your style of leadership, because I think at this point, from what I've heard about him and Pettersson, is that he keeps just harping on him, just yelling and sometimes just screaming at Pettersson and not really adjusting on how he approaches that. I mean, you can't just keep doing that to a guy and expect something to change.
Agreed. I think.
And I think there's a history there, I mean, based on what you just said, of him being a hothead like that. And, I mean, at this point in time, he should be that type of person to, change his style of communication a bit.
Yeah, so just want to cite some of my sources here because I feel like I'm just talking out of my butt right now. Like listening to Elliot Friedman had a couple good posts and headline and like news, I guess, stories about this. Jeff Merrick, Sportsnet guys, different like Daily Faceoff, those guys. This is where I'm getting most of my information about this, since we're pretty far away from Vancouver. We don't get like the local kind of like notes there. But there was the GM has been openly talking about this, how they are listening to calls on both those guys. Some of the things that the GM Patrick Allvin has said is, they're listening to both. They definitely want or are going to try to get a center in return, so like an NHL ready and like good center. Obviously, probably more pieces as well because these are two of their top centers in the organization.
Yep.
But there's a couple ways that this could fold, or I guess unroll here, or unfold. It's one of them could get traded, both of them could get traded, or they somehow work it out and neither of them get traded. I think like
both of them getting traded.
Yeah, it's possible
insane.
because I mean, if you're getting, you could get a massive return for those guys, and if it's just not working where it is, it's obviously hurting the team. The GM's talking about it, the coaches talked about it, the former coaches talked about it, and the captain Quinn Hughes has brought it up. So like,
to me, Pedersen is the team. So I see JT.
well, to me also, yeah, Pedersen is a guy that was drafted there. He's younger. He has that skill. The thing is, I think both guys teams will be clamoring over because to add a young winger with that much talent it's hard to come by, and those guys don't like they're not on the market that often. And then to add a guy with size and heart and grit like JT Miller, who also can score, also is something that playoff teams, specifically the Rangers, have been looking for and always need. So that just like tying this into the Rangers, it just seems like a perfect fit. There's a couple things that would have to happen, obviously, and the Rangers would probably have to give up another piece. But Zibanejad is a center. He's been having a horrible couple of years now with the Rangers. He's been called out by the fans like a ton. He's been demoted from the power play one. He hasn't been scoring. I mean, as of late, the last 2 games, he has a couple goals here and there. But that's a center. That's a first or second line center. Right. But I don't think that, I mean, it's
going to be more.
His stock is going down for sure. So like if it were to be Miller for Zibanejad straight up, it probably would be done already, because I think if Vancouver wanted that, the Rangers would jump at that. The other thing,
to give up some picks.
But the other reason why I think it makes sense is then you have 2 guys, and maybe this doesn't matter as much as I think it does, but they're both Swedish guys, right? Elias Pettersson and Zibanejad are from Sweden. So having some camaraderie in your country there, I think helps a lot. And when you don't have
That's true.
I feel like that was one of the things that kind of hurt Kakko when he was
They're
here.
both playing on the Swedish team.
Yes, they are. But so like when Kakko was here, there was no, I mean, they had Lundqvist for a little bit, who was a Swede, not a Finn, but at least that was kind of a Euro guy. Most of the team now is all Canadian and Americans on the Rangers, and I feel like maybe less so for an older veteran like Mika, but for younger guys, when they come onto a team, it's nice to have a fellow countryman there, and maybe they can reignite the spark that both players seem to have lost, like in Pettersson and Zibanejad. So it makes a lot of sense, but I think Vancouver definitely wants more than just Zibanejad, and I'm sure they're looking at Schneider and some other defensive guys that I don't know if the Rangers really want to part with. But if the Rangers could somehow manage to get Miller over here and make it work and get Zibanejad out, they have a couple no trade clauses that they would have to work around, and maybe they're willing. It's a lot of maybes there, but it seems like it would be a great fit and something the Rangers would be absolutely jumping at and looking for. And like I've seen this from a bunch of different reporters, so it's like it seems like when there's smoke, there's fire. That the Rangers are actively in on JT Miller. It's just a matter of finding what works best for both teams.
Right.
But I do think change is coming. We were saying the next week or two, I think more sweeping change is coming. Could totally just be blocked by Zibanejad, and if that happens, it could get ugly. They could just sit him. They don't have to play him. They have to pay him, but they don't have to play him.
That would be ugly. That would be ugly to see.
But something needs to happen, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean,
otherwise, you're just going to keep trading like players on the outside, but you need to get in and get to the root of that core and get out of there. So that's kind of the biggest trade rumors going on now with the Rangers. As far as roster moves, Keandre Miller is back in. He was out prior to the break, comes back in, and we actually haven't seen much at all of Zach Jones. He's just been a healthy scratch every game, and he's
a defenseman.
He's a defenseman. He is kind of like an Adam Fox light. He can move the puck really well. He's smaller, but he is a mental player, plays well. He deserves to be playing, I think, absolutely. I understand they want to get Borgen and Vakanainen, the two guys they just acquired, in because they're a little bit bigger.
So
they play
Vakanainen's been
defensive.
playing.
Yes. They're more defensive. They are bigger guys, but Zach Jones deserves to be playing, and he said as much. He expressed his, annoyance or grievance. He's not saying he's not out there like Kakko pretty much saying like I just want to be traded, but he's kind of just sitting there like, I've been nothing but, hardworking and understanding with all the different roster moves we've made over the last couple of years. I feel like I deserve to be in there, which I totally agree with. I guess right now he's the 7th guy, but hopefully they find a spot for him.
It's tough.
It's hard.
Roster moves are always tough because then, you don't want bitter guys sitting on the sidelines or for it to become bitter, over time.
Yeah. I kind of want it to become bitter with a couple guys. If Zibanejad is just like, hey, I'm not playing, even though I'm getting paid F this, I'm going to go somewhere where I'm going to get played, send him to Vancouver or somewhere else that we get a return for. But we'll see. We'll see how it shakes out.
It'll take a couple more losses, and then they'll be like, all right, let's sit.
How many more do you need?
Yeah, I know.
His ice time has been going down, but you still see him out there in like the key moments of a game where he kind of just doesn't help anything. And he's had some pretty blatant, horrible turnovers in some of these losses still that we can talk about in the next segment. Anything on your side with any injuries, roster movements?
Actually, things have been pretty great for us in terms of health. Laine was out for Chicago and the Colorado game, and we got Michael Pezzetta coming in. However, things were just been rolling pretty well. The troops are energetic and clicking at the right time, I think, and we'll get into that.
Oh, you also have goalie change.
Oh yeah,
right? That's big.
Yeah. The big change is Primo is sent down to waivers, which I was calling throughout our podcast, and I had a feeling about this Dobish guy, and I was mispronouncing his name before. I was saying Dobes.
I wouldn't have known.
Yeah, it's
Dobish?
Jakub Dobish.
Where's he from? Czechia?
He's honestly I couldn't tell you. I should have probably looked that up. However, first 2 games, both wins, and one of them a shutout. And his first game was a shutout, and just absolutely beyond what I was even thinking about. So far, so good for him, and we'll talk about him.
Great. We can then, I guess, just on the topic of goalies, I was going to leave it for the game that it happened, but Igor Shesterkin is on the IR for now. There was a specific play that I think is where it happened that we can talk about it because I remember watching it, thinking one thing, and then rewatching it and thinking something completely different. So we can get into that. That was in the Florida Panthers game.
Oh, okay.
But let's get into, so the Canadiens played Tampa and Florida. The Rangers played Tampa and Florida. One team won 2 games. One team won 0 games. You can tell by Brendan's poop-eating smirk over there that the Canadiens won both games.
Yeah.
I'll just start with the Rangers. They played Tampa first. We're just going to do this all together since it's the same teams.
We had that. Both teams had a Florida trip. I wonder if they ran into each other. Probably not. But,
Doubtful. I don't know. Tampa. So big thing coming in. Keandre Miller before the Tampa game. So first game after the holiday break. He's saying this seems like kind of like a restart for us. We want to put our best foot forward. We got kind of our feet under us now with the trades that have happened already. We think maybe there's more coming, but let's, I think we're going to take this and try to move forward past all the toxic crap that's been happening and just have a good effort. And they went out and they sucked. They were so bad.
So just
it was
typical
like
corporate corporate hockey talk to
it was like
reporters.
No, but I believe that Miller believed it, but some players just weren't getting behind it, right? So it was like a 5 or 6-2 loss.
He definitely wanted to believe it.
It was like a 5 or 6-2 loss. They let up like 2 shorthanded goals. I think they only scored on the power play. They actually had a shorthanded goal also for them, one of their 2. So it was just like a gutless return to returned to like the league, I guess for this. I think it was actually not yet in the new year, but like after the break, the first game back, it was bad. It just looked like God. Like if they played every game like that, it's just the lack of effort thing
Florida
again.
is a good team.
Tampa.
Tampa.
Yeah. No, they're good. Yeah, sure, they're good, but it's just like
they certainly piss me off sometimes more than your squad
it's
has,
just
or any other team, even Toronto to some extent. Tampa, I ever since the Stanley Cup Finals, I've had like a lot of fans just don't like Tampa.
No, I mean we hate them too. They beat us in the Eastern Conference Final 2 years in a row, in a row. I'm pretty sure. So,
and Kucherov, like, I'll talk about that too.
But the problem is, it's just like if we play a hard game against them and they beat us because they worked harder, but also like, or maybe just because they're the better team, or just because that's how it goes sometimes. That's one thing. But to come out and look like you're not trying and you just like look horrible, that's a totally different thing. When that's kind of been the theme of the Rangers games recently, is they come out and they look like they don't give a shit.
So it sounds like when does the energy gonna take a shift? Like, you made the trades.
I think no,
maybe not all. Well, yeah,
I
obviously,
think more
but
of the
still,
core.
It's
so there was an interesting point made by Messier on one of the broadcasts. He was talking about how when he was on the Oilers and I think they traded Gretzky while he was still there. The locker room was pissed. Like, they were mad at management for trading one of their guys, like one of their.
I mean, it's Gretzky.
one of their brothers is how he said it.
Right.
And I think that's how the Rangers feel, like getting rid of Goodrow in that way, even though Goodrow isn't a Gretzky. Getting rid of Goodrow in that way, and then maybe even treating Trouba that way, pissed.
Kakko?
Well, yeah, but it's less so because he wasn't a core veteran piece, right? He was like there for a while, but like I think the poor play happened before that, right? So what Messier was saying is the disconnect. It's not in the locker room. Like, they love each other. They're out there, with each other the whole time, and it's not even really at the coach. It's really at the disconnect with the management, and they're kind of pissed at the management, and that's why the guys who took it so seriously and personally, those moves that were made are the ones playing the worst, because they're just like, why do I even care? Like, sure, I'll go and I'll try, but it's like different now because they feel like management screwed them or did something personal to them. And I think it also makes sense because, you look at the guys who are playing the worst, it's the veterans who were part of the core. Guys who are playing the best, the young guys who maybe they don't care as much because they didn't know the older guys. Maybe they're still trying to get paid, so they're like, I get it, but it's a business and I need to make my money and I need to play well so that I can keep playing in the league, and they don't feel as comfortable, right? It's probably a combination of a lot of those things, but it's just, it made it pretty clear once Messier brought that up. I'm just like, okay, that sucks, because I do think Drury is doing what's best for the team, but maybe there was a better way he could have handled it. I think we all have talked about that, and sure, like, being a little bit ruthless with putting guys on waivers for the purpose of getting picked up isn't the best way to go, but it's like, at a certain point, it's like, guys, you got to get over it. And I think there's been a changing of the tide a little bit. You've seen after this Tampa game, what I'll talk about in the Panthers game, I won't get too far into it because I'll let you go. They did give a good effort. They actually played well and seemed to respond to when the Panthers scored. They just got beat because the Panthers are better. So, like, I'm much more confident or happy with a loss like that, where it's like a 1-goal game, but you're playing well and you lose to the Stanley Cup defending champions, as opposed to just going out there and like looking like you don't care.
Yeah.
So that was another rant, but go ahead with either of your games. You won, obviously.
Yeah, not to pour salt onto your wounds. This week, I think, shows that the team has really been buying into the system, the culture, and we really are starting to reap like what we've sowed. And one of the main things I like to bring up is like the complaints of Marty is just like, I knew right away from the beginning weeks that it's just totally uncalled for, and now everyone.
We said that too.
Yeah, we said that,
Yeah.
and people are like, fans in general are like, yeah, you shouldn't have. Well, where's like, because there was hate on Marty.
Yeah.
And there was even panelists would be like, he taught only bantam leagues of,
Yeah.
for coaching.
Well, that's what happens when you win. No, it quiets the haters, but
Right.
when you're losing, it's like, oh, this guy has no idea what he's doing.
And you
know?
should just see the passion in Marty's face, especially after last night's win against Colorado. He's like the most hype when they win in the shootout. Even when you see the bench, he's just like celebrating with everyone and the boys too. So this week can take us far, I think. It sets a precedent of what we can do, and it all starts with Jakub Dobiš coming in for the Florida Panthers game, and we beat them with a shutout 4-0, which I think that was our best game we played in a long, long time. Within the past 2 years, the Florida game and the Tampa game were the best hockey that I've seen, and where we're all enjoying it, but the players are clicking, shutting down defensively. We kept Florida on the outside perimeter, helped Dobiš out in terms of pushing out net front presence of, annoyances like Kachuk or any other of their grinders out there, Lundell, Reinhardt. And he had a 34 save shutout. Most of the
Pretty
shots,
monster, dude.
it was awesome.
Yeah.
It was awesome. And we were talking about it obviously early in the podcast. Primo cleared waivers, so he's still in our system.
He's in Laval.
He's in Laval. No surprise that he honestly wasn't picked up, because every time he started, he just couldn't shut it down or get a good solid win. I think his goals against is save percentage is like .778.
Yeah.
It's not good. It's not good. And I had a feeling about Dobiš because just watching him, he played in the preseason game against Toronto, and I was surprised that we had a goalie like him in our system. I was like, oh, damn, he could be for real.
Yeah.
And then he kept it pretty well in Laval. So good call up on him by bringing him up.
That's why the AHL is so important and good. It is it's a real league, but it is a developmental league. It's good to have.
It's a great indicator of
players.
your success.
Yeah,
honestly,
yeah.
It is the indicator.
Yeah.
I would say being in a league like the AHL and NCAA is pretty good too. You kind of have a rough idea if someone is a point per game in the NCAA that they will be pretty solid in the NHL.
I agree, but it is such a jump, and I still think. You get a guy like even Gabe Perreault, right? Like he's lighting up the World Juniors. He's lighting up NCAA Boston College as a sophomore. I still think, and I'm kind of stealing this again from Jeff Mayer because he's been preaching this for a while on his podcast. Getting a top player. I mean, Bedard. I understand you're never going to put him in the AHL.
Yeah.
But it's so beneficial to get those guys the AHL.
We did that to Caulfield.
Yeah. And look, I was thinking about Shane Wright too. Shane Wright, he came in and then went pretty much straight down to the AHL, and now he's having like a breakout year, and it's like a year or two later. Sometimes, and I think Kakko probably would have benefited from that.
I think they do. They do.
Especially these guys coming from Europe. They're playing on bigger ice sheet. Getting them in a, I guess, lower skill league, developmental league, where the ice surface is the same as the top league, helps a lot. It helps the development. And, you look at teams like the Sabres. They have all these young pieces that are supposed to be great, but a lot of them
right away.
Did not have time in the AHL to develop.
Like Benson should not, I personally think Benson should, he jumped pretty fast, I think. Well,
look at Cousins, Peterka, I don't know about Thompson, I guess, but there's a lot of guys there that they just were asked to do too much way too early.
Deline.
Yeah. So that's why I'm hoping.
They pretty much played right away.
Yeah, this is why I think so you look at another guy on the Rangers, Brett Berard. He was like one of the top guys in the AHL for like a year or two, and now he's up, and he is like the fire on the team. He's the guy going 100 miles an hour to every puck, making the plays. Like, he's still young, he's still green, he's still got some stuff to learn, but having that a couple of years in the AHL is helping him for sure right now.
Yep.
So it's just like I kind of like that philosophy way better than,
And
just trying to force it on him.
Yeah, so Caulfield, he did play a decent amount, and then he was snake bitten in his sophomore year. We set him down, and like he spent a little time there, and he was called back up, and he started scoring again.
Yeah.
So it even for players like him, very rare do you get a case like Hudson, which he made the jump from NCAA to NHL right away.
Well, that's the thing. Like you try him out. If after 8 or 10 games or whatever it is, it's just not clicking. That you send them down, and you know what? That's why that's in their contract. They are on their entry-level deal.
Yep.
You have freedom to move them up and down, and they can't get stolen. So put them down if they need it. You know, it just seems like teams should be doing that more. Maybe they are. I just don't feel like the Rangers and sometimes other teams just kind of don't use that as much.
Well, I do think Dobish certainly has benefited because he looks like a veteran out there. He looks like he knows what he's doing. He's pretty steady, big guy, and against that Florida team, it's to be called up and just play in Florida against the Stanley Cup champs. That's not like mentally and not an easy task. So it was a pretty amazing game. I've been past weeks, I harp on Kirby Dach, but he's been heating it up lately. He's scored 2 in this. Jake Evans in the fourth line. Arguably the best fourth line in the league right now, because Jake Evans gets a goal here, and the fourth line just is picking up points. They're just like absolute grinders out there. Sometimes I notice they get more ozone time than the first line, just because they go in there hard and they cycle the puck pretty well. Heineman adds a bit more skill to that line too, and of course he's been scoring as well. He at this point in time has 10 goals, 7 assists. I think he's third in goals in the rookie list. So
nice.
Pretty solid.
Yeah.
I was not expecting much from this guy at the start of the season, but I'm really, really happy how the fourth line's clicking. And everyone else is clicking. The second line is clicking now. As I said, Kirby Dach, Newhook, and Laine, of course. They've been finding a good groove. It's not just on the first line anymore to score. And that Florida game, just absolute wonderful to beat them. I think that was our first win in Florida since 2018.
Which is 7 years ago now.
7 years ago. And our team...
Is that right? No, that's wrong. That is right. Oh, my God. Oh.
It was...
That
the
makes me
team
feel
looked
old.
completely different.
Yeah.
We had, like, Philip Deneau back then. Crazy. So, good win there. And...
going on to Tampa.
Going on to Tampa was a back-to-back.
Yeah.
So we bring in Monty for this one. We win 5-2. This... absolutely loved as well because
Found your
I
scoring,
hate
man.
Kucherov.
Yeah.
Kucherov was just a pest the whole time. There's one point where he takes a penalty, and he's basically cursing out the refs. I'm not sure if we score or not, but then later on in another play, when Monty Stone Cold stops him, he complains to the refs again, like kind of harping on the previous penalty still. It's like, come on, man, like get over it. They're like, that's like, he doesn't like us and we don't like him, which is fine. But we beat him this time with 5-2, but more scoring variety still. We got Newhook scoring the first goal, just off a nice Laine. He, from what I've seen with him, is he may not be the greatest when it comes to picking up pucks and defensively or like, on the forecheck, but his control of the puck is pretty good. So he basically holds on to the puck and holds out a guy for like 10 seconds, makes a pass, and then a pass through the middle for Newhook, and that line seems to be clicking. Pretty much the only ones that score in this game are the third and fourth line. Dvorak, Evans again, actually on a shorthanded goal, tearing it up, and we win 5-2. I mean, there's not much to say other than we actually outshot Tampa, and again did the same thing that we did with Florida, which is get rid of the danger chances, the really high-scoring danger chances away from them. And one factor that I think is hard to, calculate, I think the addition of Alexander Carrier has been an enormous helpful factor, defensively speaking, because it's almost night and day from what I've seen in previous weeks. We actually are shutting down top lines and, more mature defensively. We're not really caught out as often as we have been in the past in like breakaways or 2-on-1s, 3-on-1s.
I was going to say it's kind of fun when there's not much to talk about when you're playing well. It's just like, they're scoring and they're not letting up goals, and their goalies are playing well.
The third and fourth line are scoring.
Yeah.
The Tampa game was indicative of just of our depth. When it clicks,
it just helps because then it takes the pressure off of the top two lines having to be the goal scorers. When you have Evans and Heineman chipping in, it's like
Armia scores in this game.
Yeah.
It feels nice. When you get those guys scoring, you feel a lot more confidence in winning or even coming back in the game because it used to be the case where, especially last year, it's like we only look towards the first line to do anything, and that kind of sucks because they could easily be shut down.
Yeah.
So to have that reliability on the back end and have the emergence of Jake Evans, who, as I've said before, is not a fourth line center. He could move up to any team to be a second line center easily because he does everything. He's on the PK. He works hard every shift. He's pretty good on the faceoffs. He's scoring. He could really snipe the puck now. It was always there, but now it really is emerging for him.
I feel like it's a little bit of a stretch to say that he is a second line center on any team. I think though it does show his versatility that he can play there, even if he's stretching for that. He is probably like a top third line center, and when you have him and you're utilizing him on the fourth line, that just shows, like you said, your depth, and it also helps throughout the entire lineup.
Right. We I guess the comparison we do jump to the second line comparison because we've had Philip Deneau, who was someone that was basically a fringe NHL player. We brought him into our system, and he played good hockey.
Yeah.
And now he's a top 6 in LA.
At the Kings, yeah, definitely. It's interesting.
And they play a similar style defensively, like the perfect two-way forward that you would want
as a center too. Yeah.
as a center to be in your
and
depth
in your bottom.
chart.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
More of like a lockdown, shutdown line.
Yep.
That's true. I have one final just thing to touch on in my Florida Tampa series. The Florida game, which was second for me. Like I said, they played better. Rangers still got the loss, but I thought they showed fight, which is they haven't shown in weeks now. So that was good. Good bounce back, just to look for any silver lining there. There's a play where I thought it was Sam Bennett, but I'm not sure. Taking it to the net. He's dirty, always looking for something. Lindgren comes across and just hits him really hard, but hits him right into Shesterkin. And Shesterkin goes down, and at first I thought Bennett just took him out, and I was like, oh my God, that is insane.
Right.
So messed up. And it turned out Lindgren totally just smashed him into Shesty, and ended up just
knocking him over.
And Shesterkin played the rest of the game, but after that he was out IR with an upper body injury. So it makes sense that was it. There was another couple plays.
The bad luck continues.
Yeah, it does. There was a couple plays where the first goal, I think it was a 3-2 loss, okay? So the first goal that the Panthers score, Shesterkin was arguing that it was a goalie interference. The Rangers end up challenging it. It was a little bit soft, but it's been called before, so I understand why they challenged it. Ends up being a good goal. So, goals in, whatever.
Yeah.
Game continues. Rangers answer, then the Panthers score again. This time, from what I thought, total clear goalie interference. So Shesterkin has it. It was kind of a wraparound. He has it on his foot. One of the Panthers players comes in full speed and just pushes the pad in, and then it doesn't get the puck, but the puck spurts out. But while this contact is happening, someone else comes around and just scores. So Shesterkin is completely taken out of the play from that push. No call on the ice for goalie interference, and now since we already used our challenge, can't use it.
Yeah.
And so
that probably would have been
While watching that game, I was like, why? Because I missed the first challenge, so I was like, why didn't they challenge that? That was clear.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And then I was freaking out, and then I'm like, all right, that's why they already challenged and they lost. That sucks. So that was a little frustrating because you were in that game. You don't want to blame the refs. They still probably had other chances that they should have put in. It's against a really good team, probably one of the top teams in the East. Understandable losing, but
remember when
annoying.
The league used to have infinite basically calls to basically interference? You didn't have a challenge, the coach's challenge. That was over 10 years ago at this point.
Yes.
But there was security there because of oh yeah, you just they'll go to Toronto and and call it.
It's interesting though, would that have happened on this play? I don't know.
It could have. No, I think so.
Because isn't it only when the refs or something or Toronto calls? Isn't it the refs have to make the decision? Hey, we're going to call Toronto to see.
I always thought the coaches had some influence over that.
Well, they could be like, you have to look at that.
Yeah.
And the refs could either be like, no, or yeah.
Right.
And I don't know. I want to get into the some of the calls and some of the decisions on a challenge in the Caps game, which is the final game of the week, but I'll wait to get to that. My next game is against the Bruins, if we want to go into that.
Yep.
You have three more games?
I believe so. To continue on our road trip, we go to Vegas. And the interesting part about this game is a couple of things. I noticed that all the Vegas players are 6'4".
They're massive.
They're massive.
They put together a big team.
But they weren't hitting as much as I thought they would.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like Florida Panthers were the team that utilizes the physicalness, but Vegas didn't utilize it as much as I thought they would, but they should, because we actually beat them. And two, the interesting thing is we were down 2-0 in the first, and I was like, okay, well, let's just see. No, I'm not saying game over, but my negative part of me, that's flashbacks of last year and our negative experiences over the past couple of years are like, all right, well, let's just continue watching. And we slowly climb back up and make it 3-2. Secondary scoring again, Emil Heineman, Cole Caulfield gets the first for us, just off a nice pass.
He has 20, right? Was that this game?
21 now.
21 now. That's awesome.
With Colorado, because he scored last night, the only goal in Colorado. But yeah, he gets his 19th in this game off of just a nice feed, one-timer, boom, making it look easy. Emil Heineman ties it for us. I forget who scores the last goal, but it was within the last 5 minutes of the game, so it feels good.
Yeah, comeback wins like that where you can just kind of shut down the other team. It's so fun.
It's just, and in Vegas too. So another team that has had our number, some rivalry because there was that time during our playoff run that we beat them, and so some decent bad blood there and good rivalry. I don't like Jack Eichel personally as a.
Oh, come on. Why?
He's good, but he's
gonna be a Ranger in a year.
You think?
Him or McDavid? Yeah. There's a big free agency class, dude. In the 26th season, there's a ton of prime free agent contracts come up. Most of them will stay, I think. But there's gonna be a shakeup.
Do you honestly think McDavid would leave Edmonton?
Maybe. Gretzky did. Gretzky did. He got traded, but still, Gretzky
Just
left.
seeing that that documentary with like him so pissed off and like if that happens again, I could see him leaving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It could happen. Eichel too.
And I kind of, in a way, hope because
It shakes the league up.
it shakes
it's
the
fun.
league up, and I think he could win it outside of
In New York.
Edmonton. Nah.
Yes.
Do they even have the would they even have the
Yes.
cap
Now they
space?
do. Totally. And it's going to keep going up. Who played in goal for this game?
Monty.
It was Monty.
So Monty shut the door.
Good.
29 shots, 27 saves. Pretty good game. For New Year's
Fun.
Eve celebration
Yeah. Well,
afterwards, which I think contributed to the next game, which was a loss against Chicago, maybe. I mean, you're in Vegas, and like you won against Vegas, and I mean, what else is there to do out there? I don't
On New Year's.
I personally
That's a tough.
on New Year's
Yeah.
at that. So I personally haven't been out there, but we all know what goes out there.
A lot of fun.
A lot of fun.
A lot of gambling. The world's oldest professions out there.
Yeah, yeah,
Do you know what that is?
yeah. I have a feeling.
It involves women, unfortunately.
Yeah, entertainment.
Yes. So the game for me, next game against the Bruins, 2-1 rare win for the Rangers. It was really just the Jonathan Quick show. He kind of shut the door, wasn't allowing anything. He looked
Wait, who's
prime.
your third string if Chesty's
So
out?
yeah, Chesty's out. They called up, I think they called up Louis Domingue, but then
You have Louis Domingue.
yeah. But then Dylan Garand is our real third string. He's been playing unreal. I think he got Player of the Week or Player of the Month in the AHL
Nice.
for Hartford. So
He could be your Jakob Dobish.
Dobish, yeah, he could.
Yeah.
He could. It was a decent win. I couldn't watch it because of this is another thing I want to talk about. The MSG and Optimum feud. So basically, Optimum, Altice, whatever it is trying to hike rates for the new year, and in doing so, they are pretty much either going to raise the rates and keep MSG networks or not raise the rates and get rid of MSG networks. And what happened on the turn of the year was they dropped MSG networks. So now I think millions, maybe a little bit less, but I think millions of people are out of being able to watch local Ranger, Islanders, Devils games.
Oh, that's pretty big.
So it's pretty brutal. I listened to some of it, and then I watched highlights, and I was trying to pirate it because what else? How else am I gonna watch it? But ended up being a win. Ended up being 2-1, so it was close defensively. I think there were still gaps in the Rangers game from what I could tell, but Quick really just had a all-star day, and he actually gets his 399th win of his career, which
I saw that.
He's
for
already
the
top.
Washington game.
Yeah, he's already holds the record for the most wins by a U.S.-born goaltender.
American, yeah.
But he's clearly going for number 400, which would be the next game. Didn't happen this week, but with Shesterkin out, there's a good chance that it goes.
Unless they
favor.
lose every subsequent game.
Don't put that on me. Come on. Yeah, so got the win. I don't know at this point. I know I said I'm not canceling the season, but at this point it kind of just seems like if they're gonna win and barely win and scrape by, what's the point? If they're gonna miss the playoffs and scrape out some wins that hurts their draft stock, it kind of sucks. I'm expecting the team to be blown up anyway, so it's kind of I don't want to root for losses, but it seems like that's probably the best thing. Yeah, hurt for Hagens.
Hurt for Hagens.
Yeah, that's the Bruins game.
Okay, so going to the Chicago game, coming off the New Year's celebration, we put up a good fight in terms of having probably the most shots on net that we've seen all year, close to 40. Chicago just took advantage of their chances and got the better of us. 4-2 final for Chicago. Caulfield gets his 20th of the season, which is probably the biggest highlight here. I mean, that's why we got him up right now. And I think it's time to update the jersey as well because this guy, he's
number 13.
20 at the halfway point. I mean, way above average for any normal player, and especially for us, it's rare to see. And I think it's fair to say he's gonna obviously hit the 30-goal mark, and now we're thinking maybe 40.
Goal Caulfield.
Goal Caulfield, and he's been amazing, honestly, because he doesn't just score. He has been fighting harder recently. He tries to hit. He back checks pretty well. He gets people off the puck. He has a pile of assists too. Pretty much point per game. He's been awesome for us. So people that should shoot more, like Caulfield in particular, are probably the other two line mates he has in Suzuki and Slavkovsky.
Yeah, I was going to say, I haven't heard their names much in your recaps here.
And there's a good reason for that, because they haven't been scoring despite us, being on a good winning streak here, or having a good set of wins against tough teams. It seems at the moment that Slavkovsky, it's hard for him to find his game because his stick handling has not been good. I mean, I could be wrong in saying this, but when I do see him on the puck, it's pretty easy to knock him off, or he doesn't have a good, control over it. Suzuki, of course, is always the steady guy that's he's invisible in a sense where he's not scoring, but he's always there. His presence is always there.
Yeah.
Regardless if you know it or not. But Slavkovsky in particular, there's a lot more room for improvement.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be too harsh on him because he did have a couple good assists during the stretch of games. One in particular being a feed to Caulfield, not in this game, but in the previous game. But it would be good to see more control in his game and more calmness, because I feel like maybe he panics too much. It's a young thing to do, when you have the puck, to panic a little or just be a little nervous on it. So there's certainly nerves that he's going through for that. But yeah, 4-2 loss. Not much to say other than we should have probably won this in terms of...
Was it Monty again?
It was Monty again.
Did Dobish. Did Dobish get another start this week?
Yeah. So I guess the intent for starting Monty in this game was to put Dobish in for Colorado.
Interesting.
I'm not sure why, because I thought you think it'd be the opposite.
Colorado's the better team. Yeah.
Right.
You'd think you'd get your top goalie, but maybe that's changing the tides.
So the psychology, thinking, I'm pulling this out of my ass, but it's like we have a back-to-back. This is another back-to-back.
Yeah, there's been a lot of those.
And if we have Dobish in for the harder team, the team will lock it down better because they have a more...
Protect him? Interesting.
Yeah, the protectiveness for him.
Maybe.
I think that...
Sports psychology.
Sports psychology.
By Brandon.
And I think that worked with Florida, so they were banking on that with Colorado, who's been hot as of recently. They had that comeback against Buffalo. Just like Zucker and the Buffalo team were scoring, but it's just not enough for to beat Colorado.
Yeah.
So another shamble moment for them. But anyway, Colorado game. I was expecting to be blown out of the water. First period was a bit rough. They score on us relatively quickly within the first 10 minutes, 1-0. But we kept it 1-0 for the majority of the game. Low shot count on their end. We actually ended up with a higher shot count. It was around, I'd say, 28 to 25, around there for us in shot count. And Caulfield gets his 21st of the year.
And so I think you've played 39 games at this point. So you still have 2 games to the halfway point.
Yep.
So you're ahead of the 40-goal pace.
Yeah, you're right. Ahead of the 40-goal pace. And in the playoff running, the Colorado win, surprising everyone, not just fans, but I think is a statement for us, at least to the whole league. We're here to play. We're here to make a run. Don't underestimate us.
Yeah.
And maybe that's a bad thing because now people will try to really play hard against us. But I think it's great that we are we're not letting the psychology of, better teams get the better of us and letting easily crumbling, especially you saw that in the Vegas game because we were down. We have the ability to come back and beat these good squads. So there's no excuse for not trying to make a run for the playoffs.
It's kind of like the Marty St. Louis mentality, I feel like. Like, he was always one to be counted out for his size, but he was always one of the hardest workers. And that's kind of what I'm seeing from you all now. Not so much the size, like maybe you have some smaller guys, sure, but like even when you're down, you're never out.
Yeah.
And that's something that's hard to teach, but it seems like St. Louis is doing it.
Yeah. And again, Dobish started for this Colorado game, shutting the door, goes into OT. There was some crazy back and forth of breakaways. First, Gooley gets a breakaway, shut down by, I think, Mackenzie Blackwood. And then Arturi Lehkonen, a former Canadian, one of the greats over the past decade, gets a breakaway himself. Dobish shuts the door
Nice.
pretty well. Goes into a shootout, and he once again shuts the door against guys like Mikko Rantanen in the shootout. And our guys, Cole Caulfield, Kirby Dach, are the two that score for us. And
No Laine?
no Laine this game. He was out for Chicago and in this game.
Sickness, you said?
Yeah, like flu-like symptoms,
Okay.
I think.
Back to back, makes sense.
But Dach, I kind of love his development story right now. His confidence, too, is really cool to see because when he does score this goal, it's just like not much celebration. He's just like, and then he's like, come here, squad.
Yeah, let's go.
So
Business as usual.
Business as usual, yeah, exactly. So the confidence in him, this is exactly what we want to see, especially in a comeback season for him. And nothing but good things for, I think if I were to put a star other than Dobish, it'd be Kirby Dach because he's been killing it in all of these games, even the ones that we've lost. So,
Cool.
Yeah, our week and new year is looking bright.
So you went, 4-1?
Yep.
Must be nice.
Yeah.
Went 1-3. And we have, so for my final game, they play the Caps, top team in the division. Quick is coming into this game, hoping to get his 400th, like I said. There actually is a game today as we're recording at 3. I think it's against the Blackhawks, but I'm not too keen on playing them because, I mean, they just beat you, right?
Yeah.
And also we lost to them before, and we seem to just not be able to beat any team. But I digress. The Caps game, biggest things coming into that were the Quick trying to get 400. Ovi just picking up right where he left off, breaking his leg, coming back, and he's already scoring. He's still scoring at a top pace. He has coming into this game, he has 24 goals to beat the record, and I think they have played like 38 games. So he is also before the halfway point. He has 24 goals to go, and I think he had like 18 or 19 goals at that time.
He really wants to break this record.
Yeah, he does.
Because he just turned on another level of play.
Yeah, totally. And he does score today, or in that game.
Yeah.
It was not, I mean, people say the typical Ovechkin goal, which is, I guess, number one from his slot, or from his point at the top of the circle, slap shot, Laine's point. And number two is, I think his other most scored goal is empty netters. He's just like an empty net merchant. He has the most empty nets in NHL history, I'm pretty sure.
He?
Yes,
yes.
yes.
That's funny.
But people forget, like, do you remember young Ovechkin? He would score any which way possible.
Yeah,
there's obviously the video of him like lying down and like doing
and
it
he
behind his
kind of did
back.
that in this game where he scored that on the ground.
It was off
goal.
a face-off. He's just moving to get the puck, and it's so clear. Like, Quick has everything covered on the ground, and I don't know if Ovechkin meant to. He probably did. He's so good. But Quick lifts his pad for like half a second because he expects Ovechkin to try to lift it, and it just slides it right under the pad. So, like, you'll see if you watch the replay, it's on a backhand. Ovechkin's going to get it on net. Quick goes like this, and it just goes right under. It's just
the quickness
goal
of
scorer's
his,
goal.
Like, yeah.
Or, you know, I've had this happen to me before where I am going, I think I'm shooting high, I whiff on it, it goes low, and the goalie also thought I was going high.
Right.
And it just goes right under him. It's like, oh, I guess that works.
It worked out.
Yeah, so whatever. Then I'm gonna just give it to him because he's the best goal scorer ever that I've ever seen. But
And I think we'll ever see.
we'll see.
In the history
we'll see.
of the NHL.
People thought that with Gretzky too, but
It's true.
here it is.
It's true.
But so that happened. That was a big point I definitely wanted to highlight. More so on the game as a whole, it was kind of a shootout back and forth. It was Caps would go, I forget who scored first, but either way, there was really like Caps were up, Rangers would fight back, Caps would get one more, Rangers would score one, and then they'd let up one immediately. So it was kind of like Caps would just slowly get their way higher than the Rangers and keep that 1 to 2 goal lead above them. Again, I like the fight that I saw from the Rangers. They didn't just crumble when they were down 1 or 2. They fought back. This was the first game in like 10 games that they scored more than 3 goals. They had 4 goals.
4 goals.
And I think for a half a second it was 5-4 within reach, and then it got to 6, and then it got to 7. So it was a 7-4 final. Quick.
Was it mostly your top line scoring, or is it the
so yeah, that's a good point. So Benajad did score today.
Okay.
He also scored against the Bruins. So first time in a while that he's maybe putting a couple points together.
Nice
Kreider
job, Mika.
also has kind of been putting some points together. Hedl had an absolute beauty. So Vakanainen from our zone passes it like across 3 lines. Hedl catches it on the backhand, hard pass to catch, gets it in, goes backhand top shelf on
Thompson.
On Thompson, yeah, it was Thompson. So I mean that was awesome. There was one call. This is the big thing I wanted to talk about also. There was a play where Hedl set up Cooley for a goal, and immediately afterwards, Spencer Carberry, head coach of the Caps, calls a timeout. And he calls a timeout for the purpose of looking at the play to see if there's anything to be challenged, basically.
Right. Oh, I remember.
And
I saw a clip of this. Yeah.
And so then after the 30-second timeout or whatever, he calls the guy over. He says, "Hey, I want to challenge the offside on Berard," basically. But the thing that's weird about it, right, it happened like 30 seconds before the goal. So it was like a play. So they entered the zone. Play had developed. It was in there for a prolonged period of time. Never came out. So
okay,
fair.
that's fair.
But
yep.
in there for, like, it was inconsequential to the actual goal that happened. It just was the initial entry.
But that's how it works.
I get that's how it works, but it was like 30 or 45 seconds later. So it's a little interesting, the length of time.
Right.
Fine, I get it. Within the rules, I'm not going to complain because it's like, that's how it works.
That does suck,
what sucks also is the refs took like 5 minutes.
It was a long time. I remember
to
that.
decide if it was offsides or not. And so on top of that, it's like, are we really allowed to take a timeout after a goal to look over the play to then make a challenge? That seems like it should rule itself out, because you're just giving yourself more time to review. It should be automatically the coach should have to say, "I want to challenge this." And I was thinking about this, like, if you call a timeout, maybe it's in the new CBA, maybe it's a rule update, it should automatically disqualify your ability to challenge the play, because you're just you're kind of like cheating the system a little bit. That's what I think. And maybe I'd feel different if the Rangers did this. Maybe I'd be like, "Oh, very cheeky move." But I just think, like, overall,
it's a good move if it's allowed.
Right now it's allowed. So I understand it. I'm not going to complain too much about it. But I think that's something that maybe they should update for the future, because it seems like it's kind of skirting or getting around the rules a little bit.
So basically what you're saying, it's the sort of, you call a timeout and then you call a coach's challenge after that.
So that's what they did. What I think should happen is if your video guys identify something on the play,
that might be right now.
It has to be, you have like 5 seconds,
right,
or 10 seconds or whatever.
No, the after play you have to call it, like after the goal,
when the whistle happens, or the goal happens, you have to call it.
You should call it.
Or I can understand having a little bit of leeway. Maybe it's 30 seconds, but you can't call a timeout to look at it again and then call it.
They had extra time to look at it.
That just doesn't make sense to me. And the other thing that I think people are getting a little pissed off about is, like, if you're taking 5 minutes to decide if a play is good or not, it's probably close, and it probably shouldn't affect it.
It was really close, because they did, like, go back and forth for, like, a long couple minutes.
And I think enough people see that and agree that they will make a change. It just sucks that, of course, it happens against the Rangers, and, Spencer Carberry, good coach, good move. He does something that helps his team, and it makes sense. It just doesn't really seem like the game shouldn't be that way for anyone. It shouldn't be like a 10-minute break for
anytime
checking
it
to
slows
see
it
if
down like
something-
that, it
yeah.
is annoying.
So that annoyed me, but Rangers still didn't do enough to win that game. Maybe it would have been a different game, but Caps were just putting in goal after goal. They had Connor McMichael potting one. They had a Protus continuing his hot season. So it's just Rangers still can't
What's
find
that guy?
it.
Faravarri.
Martin Faravarri.
That guy's pretty good.
Yeah, he's good too. Yeah, so I mean they're kind of a wagon right now. They play hard, they play physical. Tom Wilson got the empty net. I thought Ovi would get his second.
Come on, Ovi.
I know.
Come on.
I am rooting for him to break it, but yeah, that's most of the game there.
I like to know people who aren't rooting for Ovi.
There's people who just want it to be Gretzky's because it's just like, one, it's Gretzky. Two, Ovi's a Russian and he's friends with Putin, so everyone hates that. Allegedly, whatever.
That's
it's just like, I don't know. It's
make
kinda,
way for the new generation of hockey.
I totally agree with that. Speaking of the new generation, good segue. Final segue, last segment, World Juniors. You might not want to talk about this too much because of how it shook out.
A couple things. As we said before in the previous podcast, we care more if our prospects are in it.
Dude, okay, wait, that is a great point. I texted you right afterwards. Remember we were kind of ripping on this.
Bergqvist.
Yeah, we were kind of ripping on the Swedish prospect. He had the first goal of the tournament,
he had
didn't
the
he?
first goal of the tournament.
Or whatever, first goal for Sweden, either way.
Yeah.
And I remember listening to it when I was driving or something, and it was like, Bergqvist, the Montreal Canadiens prospect, scores the first goal. And I was like, oh my God, we were just clowning this guy.
It was a pretty good goal.
Yeah. Sweden, though, another team, I know we didn't really get into it yet. Obviously, the outcome, Canada loses to Czechia again, which is in the quarterfinals, so they don't even get a medal.
I'm starting to see a pattern here on the politics and how the Team Canada organization arranges the squad and the coaching staff.
They're never coaching again for sure. They're
to be questioned and changed. Yeah.
Yeah, and the selection committee should be totally all fired. Like they have there's
what
4
do they
or
leave out?
5.
Parecki, Parek.
Yeah, so Seneca, Parek, Yakimchuk, Misa, Haig. Yeah, Hage.
Our prospect.
Okay,
Michael
that's
Hage.
5.
Yeah,
that's 5 guys that are probably
who's
better.
a point per game in the NCAA.
Those are 5 guys that I've actually heard of. There's guys on the Canadian team I've literally never heard of because they're third liners.
Yeah.
It's just like, how are you going to do that? You're supposed to be the team.
So they chose like grinders and hard workers over, the obviously talented other group of players that you just mentioned. But when has that ever been a good?
It's not. It should be a team of your top players playing.
Yeah,
and
it's
they'll
the
figure
top
it out.
players. Like the previous generations, like the Johnny Tavares generation, Subban.
Aberle.
You just play the amazing players that. And it's fun to watch.
I think they'll figure that out next year, hopefully. I mean, hopefully for you, not hopefully for us. U.S. is
good. U.S. is solid, yeah.
U.S. is, so they're playing Finland today in the gold medal game. They lost to Finland in the prelims.
Finland.
Yeah, Finland had a big, Sweden, same thing. They just can't seem to get past the any of the medal. They can't seem to win. They seem to have a great team, top 3 team every year, and they kind of have the Leafs or Canada syndrome. Like they lose in big moments. Like last year in Sweden, they lost big to the U.S.
I'm actually
5-0.
happy seeing these other countries get
Me
the
too.
spotlight. Like Latvia.
Latvia was unreal. If you watch the Latvian goalie is going to get drafted, Feldbergs or something.
Yeah, that guy's sick.
He was so good.
Yeah, he was so
and
good.
it's just so fun to root for these
saves, basically.
It's so fun to root for these small countries because you look at Czechia even. Canada has like millions of more hockey players at this level.
This was also in Ottawa.
Yeah, that's true too. But the resources that a country like Canada has to pull in a team of your best U20 players versus a small country like Czechia or Latvia and losing to both of those, it's just truly incredible to see those small countries win. Even if it was against the US, I'd be pissed, but I'd be like,
with
that's
Canada,
awesome.
I didn't see a team that had any good chemistry. A lot of people.
Well, talk about their penalties too.
Penalties, just undisciplined. Some may argue like the major penalty in the Czechia game was like a little bit controversial, but
here's the thing: it's a little bit different.
They scored shorthanded on that.
Yeah, it's a little bit different. I know the rules and the way that they call the game is different in IIHF versus like whatever.
They're a little more
Canadian
strict
Hockey
here.
League. They're more strict. There's different calls. But I mean, against the Americans, the Canadiens took like 7 penalties, and I think the Americans scored 4 of the 7 on the power play. So it's like you're going to be that undisciplined in multiple games, you're not going to win. And they weren't playing like a team. They didn't have.
I just hate
their
also,
kids.
like,
I get their kids,
the
but
hype
like,
up, like
yeah,
the hype up for them, and then to go down like the way they did. I'm like, oh,
not
well,
even medal.
Kind of like
don't
deserved,
even medal. Yeah,
because yeah, you could name all these great players on the squad, but like it could have been better. First of all, and second of all, they didn't perform as as they were hyped up to be.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate. You don't want to see it, but it is from this, there's definitely going to be good change for the better, because you cannot just run it like how it's been this
Totally
year
agree.
and last year.
Definitely agree. Yeah. That's all I have.
Is there more in World Juniors?
There's Finland beat Sweden. It was overtime right at the end. Pretty good, like no-look shot, short side. Today's gold. I think the gold and bronze are today.
Is your only guy Perot, pretty much?
Yeah,
I mean, he's
Perot
been killing it.
and Fortescue.
Fortescue.
Or Fortescue.
For U.S.?
Yeah, Drew Fortescue. He's
Never
top defensive defenseman. He plays with Hudson, I believe. Oh, no, he plays with Z Buyam.
Oh, Booyam.
Yeah.
I like that name. Oh, Cole Hudson's been pretty...
He's been good.
He's been pretty good.
He's been good. Him and Cole Iserman. They got a couple good Coles on that team. But yeah,
if we get Cole Hudson, we have a combination of Cole
he's
Caulfield.
already drafted.
I know, but he's a combination of Cole Caulfield and
Lane Hudson, Patrick Laine, who we always mix up, and then Cole Hudson.
That'd
oh my
be
God,
sick.
That'd be a mouthful. I know it's Sam Rosen. That would like
now
would
we
kill
get
him.
Caulfield's undrafted brother. Well, I don't know
Does he
his
have
first
one?
name, but
Oh.
I think he finished his senior year in like Wisconsin or something. Yeah.
Could be. Give him a
Undrafted.
shot.
Undrafted.
Dude, give him a shot. Like,
Well, we got good players,
I think brothers with, obviously same last name, I think that carries a lot. Like, they'll get a chance that they might not have gotten. If your brother is Cole Caulfield.
We almost attempted that with the Subban brothers.
Malcolm, yeah.
Malcolm and I think Jordan Subban.
I think if you're bigger, it helps. Like, the stalls definitely helps. Like, if you're Cole Caulfield's brother and you're not as skilled and you're the same size.
The Stromes too.
Yeah. And you're the same size, it's like, maybe.
Yeah,
that's
there's
not.
low.
But
There's
if they were,
not.
like,
There's very
6'4",
little
it's like,
upside.
all right, no, this guy
There's
can play.
very
Like
little
the Jack
upside.
guys, right?
Yeah, we have the Jack guys.
Yeah.
No, so we have one. We
Yeah.
have a good pair. Florian Jack guy. I could see him on the 4th line in the future. So
Nice.
yeah,
Cool.
it'd be exciting to see him.
Awesome. All right, that's our show. Please like, subscribe, follow, tell your friends, comment. Everything that you do to interact helps the algorithm. Send it to people who want to get into hockey or like the Rangers or just want to follow and listen to two dudes talk about their favorite hockey teams.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
We have next week. It's actually 2 weeks from now.
Mm-hmm.
We actually are going to Montreal, and we'll probably do some special, different podcasts. And we're going to the game, so
Yes.
we'll probably have a bet going on. I think
Rangers, Canadiens.
I'm definitely going to want to
Sunday
bet
night.
this time around.
Yeah. I might hedge my bets. I don't know.
Come on, you gotta do it.
I'll do something.
Listen, I bet when I knew like
I'll
they're
do
probably
something.
gonna lose.
I'll do
right?
something with you.
Okay. Well, thanks for watching, guys.
Thank you.
Hope you have a good one.